over the past 2 years, I've just been more focused on improving my health and my lifestyle.
Health, fitness has to be a priority, but
So I just knew that that was going to change marketing.
so what actually inspired you, Jason, to get into SEO in general?
You don't get into SEO just because it's a great business. Take that $1,500. We will build the website, design the website, write the content, do the link building, do digital PR. You need to kind of develop strategies to get.
Hi guys, today I'm joined by Jason Hennessey. He is one of the best when it comes to law firm SEO, and he actually owns one of the biggest law firm SEO agencies in the US. That's a mouthful, in the US. Jason is a very good friend of mine, and I believe we've met. It must be 8 years ago. It was your first time in Chiang Mai, right? I believe.
Yeah, yep, it was. So, and I'm honored to be here, caller, man. It's always fun to catch up with you, for sure.
Excellent. Obviously, you've been on a bit of a health journey as well, because the original Jason that we met was, I must say, at least double the size.
Yeah,
You look like you've lost a lot of weight, man. You're looking good.
thank you. Yeah, prioritizing, for years and years, I was prioritizing wealth, that I neglected my health, and so there comes a point where you just have to kind of restructure life, I guess, right? And so, yeah, over the past 2 years, I've just been more focused on improving my health and my lifestyle. So,
How do you find, like, what habits have you had to change to kind of facilitate? Do you make like a strict routine of this is my hour of the gym, or?
yeah, it's funny, it's just small habits, right? Like the things that you snack on, the things that you drink, your sugar intake, exercise, all of that stuff kind of comes into effect. And so if you are not regimented, and you just snack when you want, you don't exercise, and you eat 10 o'clock at night, intermittent fasting is also important, not eating a breakfast anyway. So there's just a bunch of small little habits that just
Yeah.
kind of add up right over time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they just compound, because I've always been obviously quite into my health and fitness, and I do yo-yo quite a bit. I never get big, but I used to be once upon a time pretty big guy when I was younger.
yeah.
And but ever since that point, it was kind of just, yeah, health fitness has to be a priority. But I do sometimes struggle when I'm deep into SEO and doing quite a few work bits, that I do struggle at times to. I think it's because of the mental drain on like doing a job that actually requires you to think quite heavily, as opposed to you doing a manual labor job, right?
Sure. Yeah. No, it's
Um,
very true.
so what actually inspired you, Jason, to get into SEO in general? Because I know you're pretty much an OG when it comes to SEO, right? When
Yeah.
it first started, or when it first began.
So my entry point into SEO begins in 2001. So I've been doing this most of my adult life. I think like most people that get into SEO, like you don't get into SEO just because it's a great business. Maybe now people are doing that. But for me, it kind of started as like a need, right? I had a small business. I was operating it, and I was trying to figure out how can I drive more traffic to my small business.
Yeah.
And so I had a developer develop a website. And after nobody was coming to the website after they developed it and I paid them, I'm like, what's going on? Is it broken? They're like, oh no, I think that's called like SEO or something. And so I'm like, well, what does that mean? And so like I was like, I don't know. Like I'm just a developer. I don't do SEO. And I'm like, okay. So I started to kind of study it. I bought a book about it. I read it. And it started out as a just a genuine interest, right? Which then turned into more of a passion, which then turned into an obsession, right? Over time. And so I just knew that that was going to change marketing as we knew it, right? Back in those days, right? Where people at the time were still kind of using yellow pages to look for
Mhm.
things, but then there was like a search engine where you can actually let the fingers do the typing and it's giving you more specific solutions to your problems. And I'm like, I'm going to go all in on this. And so, yep, I never looked back, I guess.
So was that first business like a agency, or was it just a standard?
No, not at all. It was the first business was really I was going to college and I had a DJ company where I'd like DJ like weddings and parties and stuff. And
Yeah.
so the website was called lvbestdj.com, I think. I don't even know if that's still available, but Las Vegas Best
Yeah.
DJ.com. And so that was the actual website. And I'm like, hey, how can I get this website ranking on Google and Yahoo and stuff for like when people type in like Las Vegas wedding DJ, Las Vegas party DJ and stuff like that. That was really the the website. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
So then, how did you from that then, Jason? So you started entering SEO, you're getting addicted to it. At what point did you think, you know what, I'm going to go down the law firm side, and that is going to be the focus?
Yeah. That all happened on accident, right? And so from 2001 to 2008 is when I got into legal. Like most people, right? You are doing this SEO stuff, you're having some success with it. Then, you're thinking about like, well, how else can I make money? And so I was doing some affiliate stuff. I was doing some drop shipping websites. Like I kind of was doing a lot of stuff because I had this skill set, right? And like,
Yeah,
hey, I know how to get websites to rank on Google. How else can I make money in addition to just promoting my own DJ company? And so that journey kind of, found me kind of doing. I was even in the gambling space for a bit. I know you play a lot of, played a lot of time in that space.
yeah.
Where I was doing SEO for two poker websites
Okay.
in the United States. I was mostly doing their link building, but it was called Absolute Poker and Ultimate Bet. Right, those were the two websites that I was working on. And then my wife and I, we had kids, and we didn't want to raise our kids in Las Vegas, and so we decided to move to Georgia, a different part of the United States. And so met up with a guy by the name of Brad Fallon. He had a company called StomperNet, which was like one of the early places where people can learn about SEO. And so Brad got invited to speak to a group of lawyers. It was like a mastermind. And again, this was 2008. And so he's like, hey, I know a little bit about SEO, but you know a whole lot more about SEO. Like, why don't you come with me to this event? I'll kind of say a couple of things and then I'll let you speak. And then maybe you can kind of educate them. And so I'm like, okay, I don't know much about law firm marketing at all, but I'll put together a presentation of like how I was able to rank for, wedding favors, right? With my drop shipping company or something like that. And so, I went with him the next day. I put together a presentation. And so I got on stage. I gave about a 45-minute, presentation to this group of lawyers. And so once I got done, I had probably like 6 or 7 lawyers that came up to me and said, that was awesome. Do you do this like from a consulting basis? And I'm like, not really, but give me your card. And so I ended up leaving there with probably 7 business cards, which then turned into like about $30,000 per month in reoccurring
Wow.
revenue. And
Yeah.
that was the genesis of my first agency. And so, and then from there, we started building case studies and we started to promote ourselves to going out to get other lawyers. And we found this specific niche. So it was really all, I guess, chance or on accident. I'm not
It's
sure.
quite funny that you said that. So, what in my early days, one of the ways I started was like a forums back then, and then I met. Um, I went into the dating niche affiliate, but it was all through meeting a guy called Bill Belcamino.
Okay.
He introduced me to SEO and then certain affiliates, like sort of websites, and then that kind of like went from there. So it's interesting how you kind of started in like a forum space. You met a guy on the internet, and that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah, like it's so funny how that works, right? It's I guess everybody's journey is a little different, right? And and it's just like the timing of things and where you are in the world and who you meet, right? And I don't think there's any coincidences, right? It's all kind of meant to be, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So when
Mhm.
you obviously you're now into law, and I know you've just mentioned link building. We're going to touch on that in a little bit because there's so many people who are like completely against link building. Obviously, you've mentioned I was in gambling, so I'm very, very pro link building. And yourself being in the law scene, I
Yeah.
know that is also quite deep on links.
Mhm.
Um, was it primarily so? Obviously, in the states, the I assume the cost per click for most law terms is sky high, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
that is a service, and I assume you use that as sort of like part of your pitch on the slide. You know why spend so much money on paid ads, or do you do more like a well, nowadays I assume you do more of a sort of combined approach, right? Where you'll probably take everything over, you do the whole marketing package.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. A lot of times when people, we've built a pretty good reputation in the market, right? Over
Mhm.
the past 10 years for this agency, right? And so, our work typically speaks for itself.
Yeah,
So somebody might do a Google search in a big market and then find the number one website ranking and then go down to the bottom of the website and see our logo there, right?
got it.
So sometimes people reach out to us just because like they see it on other websites in markets maybe that they're in or that they're not in. And as far as like us, like, having to kind of pitch and sell, like what are the strategies that we use? I think we do everything, right? So like most agencies, we will build the website, design the website, write the content, do the link building, do digital PR, do some paid PPC strategies as well. And so a lot of times when we're pitching this, there's always unique circumstances like, oh, well, we do paid in-house and we love our in-house team. Okay, that's fine. That's not a blocker. That's fine. We'll work perfectly together and we'll let the data talk to each other. But sometimes they just want us to do everything for them. And, usually when you're working with an agency that's so specific, you get the benefit of that because we've got tested strategies that work.
Yeah,
When you work with us from a PPC perspective, like we've already spent millions and millions of dollars on
got all
testing
that
out
data.
things. Yeah, it's like, like we know all the negative keywords to add to your campaign right at the very start,
Yeah,
right? So like sure you can do it by yourself, right? Or you can hire another agency to do it, right? But like you get the benefit of like all that money that we've invested, right? In able to kind of build out a strategy that's going to get the best results for you, right? And so that's usually like part of the sell. So A, we've got a good reputation. B, we've got a good solution. And then C, it's just managing expectations, right?
Mhm.
And that's really like where I think a lot of agencies fail is they either overpromise, underdeliver, not intentionally, but like sometimes it's just you don't really know what you're getting into until after you're in it.
So when you're like managing the expectations of the customer, obviously I'm aware you probably whether or not you still do this, you I assume you're quite removed from this business now.
Mm.
Um, but let's say your sales team go in and they're chatting to clients. How are they sort of managing the expectations of the clients? How are they explaining like what it is you're going to offer and do?
Yeah. So a lot of times we'll use like one of our case studies, right? We'll look at a client that's doing very well. And so we can show them like a client that's been investing in SEO for 10 years.
Yeah,
And we can show them a client that's been investing in SEO for 12 months, right? 1 year. And you can kind of see like the difference. And so we educate the clients on everything that we do, right? So like we'll look at their website. Sometimes we'll see a website, that somebody's coming to us and it looks like the agency that they're working with is doing a good job. You know what I mean? And like, we'll be honest about that. We'll be like, hey, listen, like, sure, we can add a little value here and there, right? But it seems like, you've got a pretty good team that's doing a good job, right? And so, clients like, well, I guess prospects appreciate that, like
mm,
we never like talk bad about other agencies, you know what I mean? Like that's just not the way in which we operate. and we're just realistic, like if a client comes to us and they're like, hey, I live in Los Angeles, I really want to dominate that market, I'm fresh out of law school and I've got a $1,500 per month budget. We're like, take that $1,500, you just graduated law school, like go to Disneyland, man, like enjoy yourself, like, because you're not really like, sure, I'd love to take your money, but like it's unrealistic.
You're not going to get anything for it,
Yeah.
basically.
And at the end of the day, it's like, even if it's like 5 grand, $7,000 per month, if it's unrealistic, like, sure, I'd love to take that revenue, right? But like, if it's going to be 5 years at that budget before you really start to kind of make a dent, like that's not realistic, and I'd rather like preserve my reputation in the market than have
Yeah.
somebody that's angry at me and that's treating my staff bad because like it was mismanaged at the beginning, right? So everything that we say at the beginning, right, trickles down to like everybody that touches the account.
So the way I kind of do it, because on occasion I'm pulled into consultancy calls and stuff like that, is I kind of open up a search console of what I consider a very healthy website, nice positive ranking state and
Mhm.
growing nicely. But then I also zoom out on it for the 16-month period and I go, look,
You see
there's
the
times
dips.
where it's winning, there's times where it's losing.
Hmm.
This is SEO. This, like, if you expect someone to come in and you're always going up, that isn't how SEO works.
Not at all. Yeah. In fact, I had a call yesterday with a client, and the client was concerned, right, because their traffic over like 6-month period was really dropping, right? The traffic was dropping. Um, but the thing about it is, like, for us, like the biggest metric, the scoreboard that we look at is the cost per lead
Yeah.
and the cost per signed case, right? That
Okay.
means like the person got a
Yeah.
new case that they signed, right? And so if we go back 12 months, the cost per case, let's just call it, was like $2,000 cost per case, right? Fast forward a year later after doing SEO, even with the traffic declining, the cost per case was down to like $900, right? So we brought the
Wow.
cost per case down by $1,100 per case, right? And every one of those cases has a value to a lawyer in the United States. Let's just call it like $12,500, like an average, right? So that's like, it could be $300,000 in like revenue for the client, right? At the cost of, let's just say they're spending $25,000 per month with us. So we brought in $330,000 in revenue at the cost of 25,000. So even though the traffic is declining, like that's not the real metric here. Like,
Yeah.
and the reason why the traffic was declining was because they were ranking for like, it was like FAQ strategy. And
Got
so
you.
they were ranking for things like, how can you tell if you have a back injury from a car accident, right? Something like that. Whereas they used to rank like at the top of Google, right? But now when I look at that SERP, like you have the AI overview, right?
Mm.
But then you also have that like indented section where it has all the user generated, like the Quora
Yeah.
and Reddit and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So these two blocks, and then you have the people also ask, right? So there's these three blocks, and they're still ranking number one, but it's just way pushed
Yeah.
down,
Way down.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the reason why they're losing the traffic. But a lot of the transactional pages that we write, like, the car
They
accident
were still
number,
in positioning.
those are
Yeah.
all doing very well and they're still generating, right? So anyway, you have to like educate clients though about that.
Well, that's the also the crazy part on the same calls as you start going in. They're like, oh well, the traffic's just been plummeting. You go into the pages, you see where their position is. The position's pretty stable. You go, well, let's now have a quick look at Ahrefs. Well, you can see that there's various other features being added to the SERP now,
Mhm.
which means that you're now getting less impressions, less clicks, but your average position's the same.
That's right. Yeah.
And
Hmm.
it is, I definitely think it's something where it would be interesting to see how the AI, because obviously AI overviews are quite new now.
Hmm.
However, I assume you've maybe been testing this as well. You can quite easily manipulate them. In
Yeah.
general, you can obviously do creative things with link building
Hmm.
a lot of the time and actually manipulate what is being spouted in those AI overviews, which is great. Um,
Yeah.
so when it comes to link building, Jason, how pro are you towards link building when it comes to law firm SEO?
Yeah. I mean, you don't have a strategy if you're not doing link building, in this space, right? And I can see like people that are against link building. I guess if you are working on enterprise websites, like if you're working for Coca-Cola.com or
You don't need it.
yeah, you know what I
You're
mean? Like
already
if
there.
you're working for like big enterprise, Home Depot, Coca-Cola, Amazon, I mean like, Walmart, right? You know what I mean? Like those websites, I think you can do more just kind of like with internal link
Yeah.
strategies, right? Than to try to go get a guest blog post that you're going to pay $400 for, right?
Probably still argue though that if you then did that on top of that, you're probably going to dominate even more,
You
right?
could. Yes, exactly right. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, but like, good luck getting somebody in Walmart legal,
Yeah, yeah,
right,
to
to
sign off on
approve,
it.
right? You know what I mean? Like, I guess blog posts on this website, that's a mommy
On
blogger,
this,
you
I
know
was
what I
going
mean?
to say this mummy blogger website.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so like I can see like people like, hey, like link building doesn't work, right? And but like if you're a small law firm and people just don't naturally link to
Yeah,
websites, like who the heck is linking to a DUI? Like that's drinking and driving, right? You know what I mean? Like in the United States, like who is like just naturally linking to a DUI lawyer website? Like who's naturally linking to a painting company that paints houses, right? You know what I mean? That stuff doesn't just happen naturally, right? You need to kind of develop strategies to get it to seem natural, right? But a lot of times it's manipulated, right? That's kind of what we do, right? We manipulate it in a way that kind of looks natural, but at the same time, also getting the client to know that they are equally as responsible at building links as we are, right? So
yeah,
like everything that you do as a business is kind of like an SEO strategy, right? From HR, right? People that you try to hire, whether you're using Indeed, whether you're using monster.com, right? Those are all links that you can build back to your website. Signing up for the Better Business Bureau, signing up for the local Chamber of Commerce, going out and sponsoring like little league teams, right? And just kind of
yeah.
building links naturally. Like the stuff that you do, like just naturally is also a big part of like SEO, right? And so we educate our clients on that.
I was going to say it's more about educating the client to understand that ask for a link anywhere and everywhere you can.
Yes. That is the currency, man. That's the currency on the web. And regardless of if it's just in terms of SEO or now if it's like manipulating AI as well, because we know that that is a big part of that,
Mm,
right? The reason why AI are using certain websites is because of all the different signals and entity associations that they're seeing. So a link is never going to hurt you, let's just say, unless back in the whole panda penguin days, right? If you start to kind of abuse it, right? Sure, I can see where it could hurt you, you know.
So when you're like building links, and obviously you just mentioned their abusive links. Now I'm very pro I operate in the gambling space, so
Mm.
gambling's probably actually I would say it's more expensive than low when it comes to getting the links placed.
Sure.
Anyone hears the word casino, all of
Hmm.
a sudden what was a $40 mummy blog site is now
Times 10,
$300.
times 10.
Exactly, or $400.
Yep. Hmm.
Um, so then how do you uh, at that point, what do you do when it comes to sort of anchor text? Are you just very much just focus on branded? Or is that the kind of strategy you go, just make it natural, make it fit in the sort of the content? Or do you try like a more exact match approach? Like some people are very pro exact.
Yeah, no, so like so for me, like right now I'm trying to like rank for like keywords like law firm SEO, PPC for law firms,
Yeah,
where we have like we built out the strategy, we built out the content, we built out the internal like linking, like so we have all that kind of dialed in. And now it just comes down to like driving strong links back to those specific pages, right?
yeah,
And so yeah, like I'll kind of go in and I'll look at like Ahrefs and I'll see like, there's this web page, this page is ranking for 240 keywords. Okay, great. What are all the transactional keywords that have decent search volume? And then I'll work with, some of our linking partners to go out and get links using exact matches, right? Not over abusing it. Like it's not like I'm going to order, 20 links in 2 weeks that all say the word law firm SEO as the text, right? They might
Yeah,
say law firm SEO agency, agencies that
LSIs basically.
specialize and yeah, but just kind of diversifying it. And then you'll see very quickly how powerful that could be if you're getting like DR80, DR70 links that are using exact match anchor text going back to specific pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you off the back of that? Obviously, link building is, I would say, fundamental to most SEO strategies. Have you ever? This is a two-pronged question, mind, Jason. So, have you ever obviously had a client website hit by a penalty? And if you have, how have you like handled? How does that go down with the client themselves? Are you educating them on the understanding at the very start that we are doing link building, but it's not necessarily an approved strategy, if you see what I mean, from Google?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only time we ever had a client get penalized was when like everybody got penalized with like Penguin Panda
Penguin.
days, right? Yep.
Yeah.
Where we were just leveraging what was working at the time,
Yeah.
right? And that was heavy into, comment link building. Like you find like a Coca-Cola blog and it's a DR96 and you go in and you make your first name DUI and your second
Yeah,
name
yeah, yeah.
William, right?
Was that like called Keyword Love, I think, at the time?
Yep.
Keyword Love blog
Uh-huh.
commenting and stuff.
And so and then and so just one morning you woke up and everybody had these like manual penalties, right? And so and we had to kind of, I mean, they made it like a nightmare to kind of like get out of that, right? You had to kind of like document your work and then submit like a reconsideration request with a spreadsheet that shows you did all this outreach to get the links removed, right? And so yeah, those were nightmares, right? But it was just because we were leveraging what was working in terms of like, Google and that algorithm at the time, right? And so but these days, like I'm a lot more careful about that. We don't really do too much stuff on the gray side of business.
So do you tend to stay away from like PBNs and
Oh
things like
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Is it more just guest posts, digital
Exactly.
PR?
Yeah, yeah. We're not
Yeah,
doing any PBNs, anything like
yeah.
that. You could maybe do tiered link building. So like you could use like PBNs and stuff like that to maybe link to
To power up
a
again a
like a
digital
legal
PR piece.
directory where they're
Yeah.
listed on that page to kind of boost, like the signals there, right? And that's actually effective. We're doing some tests right now where we're basically doing some tiered link building to specific, like you get like a USA Today article that's linking to a client, and you're building
Yeah.
tiered links to that USA Today, and it's like,
What's
holy,
actually interesting off the back of that, because we do a lot of tests with this, is almost similar, but I like to call it a power post. So
mhm.
essentially, you've turned a guest post into something that's really powerful and now is ranking for the keywords that you want to rank for, essentially.
Yes,
So it's
yeah,
empowering that link. It's not parasite, because obviously, parasite, you're often leveraging just
that
the
parasite.
authority of the site. Exactly.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
so that's kind of what we coined. But we see actually what ends up happening is that same website then starts getting triggered in LLMs
sure.
because
Hmm.
they seem to be like a point of reference a bit more.
Yep,
So,
so
so
true.
how would you say like AI is now transforming your business's strategies and things like that when it comes to your agency? Has it had much impact? Have you hired more staff, i.e., like just AI focused staff, etc.?
Yeah, so we're very innovative in terms of like being open to leveraging AI to create better efficiencies within the organization. There's a lot of agencies that are looking at AI as a threat, right?
Mm.
And the world is upside down, and SEO is a thing of the past, whatever, like SEO is dead, I guess is the term that people say,
Not
right?
again.
But no, I
It's
think
greater than Jesus, this thing. It keeps coming back each year and dying
it
again.
it does, right? And so, but no, we do things differently. We figure out like we do once a year, we do something that we call like an internal hackathon, right? Where we allow like our full engineering team like the ability to take a couple days and come up with like solutions, leveraging AI. One of the solutions that we came up with internally was taking a full website and translating it into multiple languages using AI, right? So basically creating like a .es subfolder and translating all of the internal links, all of the content. And then anytime you update the page in English, it'll automatically update that page into the multiple languages. And so the whole strategy basically stays the same, but now it's just basically indexed because it's in all the href lang tags get changed, right? So it's like perfectly set up. And then you have a client that wasn't getting any traffic from like Spanish queries. So all of a sudden they're getting like 5,000 visits per month, like in like 60 days as Google starts indexing this, right? So like that's like really a powerful strategy there. And then, just kind of making our lives more efficient. So like, whereas a writer that would normally be able to write maybe like 4 to 5 articles in a day, is now able to write maybe like 10, right? Because they're leveraging AI to kind of supplement the work that they're doing. You're not just taking ChatGPT and taking an article. I mean, they're
And dumping
really
it
kind of
in.
refining
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
right? Yeah. So,
So that then are you using it obviously to create outlines for content and all of that? And I find with the yeah, it's amazing now because obviously with AI, you can literally ask, what RDF triples are present in this range of 10 documents, let's say.
mhm.
And that's going to give you the semantic triples that are typically relevant to that keyword. And then you can literally hand that over to your writer. They have to factor these into different pieces, and all of a sudden you've got a very well optimized article that is perfect for the search engine.
Yeah. I mean, there's more savvy people like you that are going to do it right, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of non-savvy people that are going to do it wrong, and are going to really mess up their websites. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like that's the thing is like you can do real damage to a website if you're like implementing the wrong strategy, right?
Oh,
Everybody,
1,000%.
yeah, everybody has access to the same
Yeah.
tools, right?
Well, there was a guy I spoke to recently. He said, "Oh, I don't worry about content." I was like, "What do you mean, don't worry about content?" He's like, "Oh, well, ChatGPT just spits out an article." I'm like, "Oh no!" So I'm like starting to look through his articles, and
That's what
it's
I'm
like,
saying. Yeah,
it's like let's delve into. Oh, here we go.
here's the conclusion, right? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like seriously, like, and it's really bad because like the thing that you can't take away from someone like me and you or anybody probably listening to this that like has been in SEO for years is like we know the strategies to develop that work based on when it was harder, right, to do
Mm,
it, right? But now we all have access to the same tools that somebody that doesn't have 10, 20 years of experience doing SEO. So they're just thinking that they could just take a ChatGPT article, put it on their website, right? Not understanding like topical authority and silos and internal links and how you can like really screw up a website with the wrong internal links, right? You know what I mean? So like anyway, that's the advantage of having somebody that has years and years of SEO experience, giving them the same tools that somebody that has zero experience with,
yeah.
right? Mm-hmm.
One of the things I've been playing with it recently, and I know we're going a little bit off tangent here, but one of the things I've been playing with, which has been pretty cool recently, is actually having ChatGPT understand give it a list of the article titles that are on the website and have that understand based off the article titles and content
Mm-hmm.
what should internally link to where
Sure.
based
Mm-hmm.
off how close they are semantically to each other
Mm-hmm.
rather than me as a SEO just going, I want this to rank for this keyword. It's actually telling me what keywords it thinks based off machine learning it should rank for, which has been quite an interesting test.
But that's a good example right there because the only reason why you would give it that prompt is because you
Mm.
know the power of internal links, right?
Yeah,
But somebody like fresh out of college that gets hired that has access to a $20 chat GPT account that's now doing marketing at a business is not going to know how to write that prompt, right?
no,
And is not going to know how to execute and implement it correctly, right?
no.
So there's power in what to know how to prompt things, right? Like there's a lot of power in just knowing what to prompt.
And I would still say I'm very much still learning when it comes to prompting because I swear to God, sometimes you get outputs from AI and you're expecting one thing and it gives you something else. And then you're going down a rabbit hole for 3 hours trying to get the right prompt. I'm like, I could have just done this manually myself by this
And
point.
sometimes, yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah,
um,
exactly.
so circling back onto, there's actually one thing I want to come back to. So when it comes to the law firm side, what sort of, when you're speaking to a customer, what sort of ROI are you giving them as an expectation?
Yeah. So, we don't ever like specifically, talk about, hey, if you're gonna work with us, you're gonna get, a 3-to-1 ROI or a 10-to-1, or like basically we just tell clients based on our experience, like, like if we look at a firm that's been working with us for 10 years, right? If we stretch that out, what was originally a average cost per case of, let's just call it $5,000, which is high, like over time, right, went down from 5,000 to 4,600, which went down to 4,000, which went down, right, all the way down to now where like 10 years later, they're actually getting like cost per case below like $500, right? And that's just because everything that we do grows and compounds,
Yeah,
right? The
that's cool.
content
Yeah,
that we're writing 4 years ago is
yeah.
still going to start to generate some traffic leads and cases, right? Versus the content that we're writing today, right? So it's really, we're using like our data and our case studies to kind of answer that question for us.
How many staff have you got now, Jason, within the agency?
I think we're approaching like probably 140, maybe something like that.
Wow,
Hmm.
that's a lot of systems, processes, and management in place there.
Yeah, I always like to say the easy part of running an agency is doing SEO. The hard part
Yeah,
of running an agency is scaling SEO.
yeah, yeah. I can imagine. So how do you keep on top of the? Obviously, I know you probably don't, or you have your own set of management that you need to. But how do you make sure that the managers keep on top of SOPs, stuff like that?
Yeah.
Or do you have like a core set that the team just all operate off? Or
Yeah, so like we do quarterly leadership retreats, and then at the end of the year we kind of do like a planning session for the following year. And so at the planning session, which is usually in October, we go over like what are the key objectives that we want to accomplish per department. And then we also look at like what are the KPIs that we want to accomplish as an organization, right? And so usually there's like three big strategic thrusts that we commit to and we're going to allocate budget to and stuff like that. And so, that basically keeps us on track because if we're going to build out a platform in 2024 so that our clients have more transparency to how we report things, right? If that's something that we commit to, well, then we need the full engineering team to kind of back that. We need to put resources behind it. We need to put budget behind it. And then from there, every quarter, when we're doing our specific quarterly check ins with our leadership team, it's like, hey, is this on point? Where do we go off track? Do we need more budget? Do we need more resources? Right. And now we're basically all kind of holding each other accountable to making sure that we're all focused on the same goals for the year.
so I assume when, let's say, client X comes in and they've got a $30,000 a month budget and that's what you've got to spend, are you then naturally attributing, right, 30% of that's going to go on links, 30% of that's going to go on website optimization and technical, or
Mhm.
30% might go on digital PR? Like, is that how you typically, and then obviously whatever team time, etc.
Yep.
Is that how you typically take a client and you've got sort of set amounts of what you typically spend, or does it get front loaded to try and get quicker results? Or
Yeah. So, and this has kind of changed and evolved over the years. For the most part, when a new client comes on board and they sign up with us, usually we give them like three different options, like tiers of things, and it's not like a package. Like $5,000 per month, you get SEO. You know what I mean? Like it's not like that. Like it's like, hey, for $15,000 per month, right? That's going to include like the first line item is like digital consulting, right? So that's where we develop the strategy every month. You're going to have an account manager. You're going to have somebody in the analytics
that's
team.
like
You're going to
the staff
Yeah,
side?
that's kind of like that, right? Then from there, then there's web development hours, right? So that's
Yeah.
where, based on the strategy, we need our engineering team to kind of go in and implement the strategy. So there's hours for that. Then there's also not hours, but content creation. So like how many articles are we going to be publishing? So
Yeah.
10 articles, 15, 50 articles, right? So there's a cost of that. And then there's a line item for link building as well, right? And so from there, all of that gets added up and it's like, here's a $15,000 per month option. If you want to move faster, there might be a $25,000 per month
Yeah.
option, right? And so that's kind of how we do things.
No, no, that's cool. That's cool. It's just because it's quite interesting speaking to another agency owner because I've spoke to quite a few and some of them just don't really have. I think they just don't handle that expectation very well to the customer. So then the problem is the
How do you
customer doesn't
grow it?
really know what they're getting.
They don't know what they're getting, but how can you get them to the next level? If it's like, hey, it's
Exactly.
4,500 bucks per month for SEO. It's like, okay, great. That's way cheaper than Hennessey Digital. I'm going to go with that, right? It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But like, how
But
do
then
you,
they're going to have to spend that for the next 3 years and might not get a return and probably go bust, or they spend 20,000 and get
yeah, like,
somebody else
how
to
do I
get.
get more? Like, this is working. Like, how do I get
Yeah.
more? Okay, well, just give me 6,500. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like, so like you have to kind of be justified in how you're pricing things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So would you say, obviously, we'll try and keep this nice and short for you as well. Would you say last couple of questions, what keeps you motivated, Jason? Because I know you've been in the game a long time and it keeps changing. And if
Mhm.
you've ever seen that South Park picture where Cartman keeps on getting bruised and battered,
Yeah.
he's like, I've got another round type thing. I
Yeah.
don't hear no bell. What
Hmm.
keeps you motivated?
I think what really keeps me motivated is I look at this like at this point in my life, right? I'm not necessarily doing this for more money, right? I think that was like my primary driver, like early on, right? I wanted to be able to like, you know, create a nice lifestyle for my family. And so like once I got to that level where like, hey, my family's kind of taken care of, now we're trying to better the lifestyles of our employees, right? So as we get new clients, that just gives us a bigger budget to kind of make our employees' lifestyle better with better healthcare, better benefits, right? So like stuff like that. So I look at it like, okay, because of all the work that we're doing collectively and all the great results that we're getting for our clients, it also betters the lives of our employees. And then if our employees are happy and they're doing a good job, like genuinely caring about the results that they're getting for their clients, well, now it's also a triple effect because now they're getting more business, our clients, right? Because of the work that we're doing, and they're able to kind of feed more families and better the lifestyles of their people, right? And then on the flip side, like somebody that was in a traumatic car accident, right, that might not have the resources to get their car fixed and pay all the hospital bills. Now I'm actually, because all the work that we're doing is bridging the gap and allowing like that person to connect with a law firm that is going to take care of them, right? So it's like when you look at it like that, there's so much like benefit that we get by showing up for work every day.
Yeah. No,
Hmm.
that's awesome. And I'm guessing that obviously gives you that sort of little morale boost as well when you almost like a give back feeling as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're a big company on that. We do a full week. We actually do something called Rack Week at our company where it's like random acts of kindness, right? So all week long, it's like, hey, today let's go out and write 5 reviews on Google. The whole company, 140 people, for like small businesses that you go to on a regular basis. Just take the time today, take a couple hours, and just kind of go write reviews for them. The next one is, hey, maybe let's take a day and let's go and go to a local like homeless shelter and just kind of give, so like we do a lot of that, like that whole feel good stuff too.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, that's awesome. That's really, really cool, man. So
Hmm.
then last question, last but not least, and then I'll let you go. What advice would you give to anyone starting in SEO today and wanting to go down the law firm sort of SEO route or solicitors in the UK
Yep.
SEO route?
Yeah. I would say for one, you know, get into this business because like you genuinely care about SEO. You've got a real passion for this SEO stuff, right? Don't just get into the business to make money, right? That's like the wrong approach. I think the money will follow you if you have a real passion for it and you're good at what you do. So I would start there. The second thing is I would get one beta client that maybe you do things at a discount, just so that you can really like cut your teeth
Yeah,
in it. Because you're going to make a lot of mistakes, right? And you're going to make these mistakes at the expense of this client, right? And so if you're transparent with the client, and you're giving them a discount, hopefully you build a good relationship. Hopefully you get the strategy that works. And then once you have that strategy, maybe it's like 3 months, 6 months later, now you can leverage that one client to go out and find other clients, right? Because you've got a strategy that now works, right? You've tested it, it's proven. And then you go find another client, and then you go find another client, right? And then you get to the point where it's like SEO is not fun anymore, like I said, because now you're running a business. You're not
yeah,
just an SEO person. Now you're actually figuring out how to hire people, how to train people, how to deal with payroll, how to deal with legal and compliance, right? All the other stuff that kind of like most people aren't really set up for. Like there's a lot of people that are amazing SEOs, but there's really, let's just call it like 2% people in our industry that are amazing, like business owners, business people, right? And it's not the same skill sets at all.
no.
Yeah.
You'd actually find that you tend to pretty much not do SEO anymore. I was actually like the last week, I think was one of the first days where I sat down and started doing some SEO for like a few hours. And I was like, oh, this is nice. Turned my phone off, just sort of started twiddling with things and tweaking things on websites. So I was like, wow, I haven't done this in a while.
Yes, like I geek out about that stuff, right?
Yeah,
But I think if I find myself doing like SEO, like that at this stage in my career is not the best use of my
no,
time,
no,
right? You know what I
no,
mean?
no.
Like it's not the best use of my time. Like 20 years ago, it was the best use of my time.
Yeah,
100% of my time should be focused on that, right? I think I'm doing a disservice to everybody that knows me if I'm going in and changing a meta description on a
yeah, changing the meta tag or title
you know what I mean?
tag.
Like, yeah, it's like right? I could probably write the best damn meta description ever, right? You know what I mean? But it's not the best use of my time.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Right, Jason, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Is there obviously we'll add your website address? Is there any LinkedIn or Twitter that you have that people can get a
Yeah,
hold of
yeah.
you on?
Thank you. I'm pretty active on Instagram. I make video content, short video clips every single day. I also post pretty good content on LinkedIn. Those are probably the two platforms that I'm most active in from a professional standpoint. And then on Facebook is more of if you want to know the personal lifestyle of Jason Hennessey. That's kind of where I'm, a more active
He's
person.
always showing loads of trainers and things on Facebook. He loves his trainers. He's got quite a collection.
Yes. Yeah. I certainly do. Yeah, for sure.
Excellent. Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend.